Hey, thanks for joining us live. We'll be starting in about 5 more minutes. We're just waiting for everyone in person to be settled. Thanks. All right, I think we're good to go. Welcome everyone to this session of Intro to Firebase, making your own chat application. First up, has everybody signed in over there, the QR code thing? Yeah? Yes, everyone? Cool. Did everyone get their slice of pizza? Okay. these guys can. You want them to call them now? Okay. Okay, figure out the pizza on your own. Yeah, just take 2 minutes to quickly grab your slice of pizza, and then we'll get started. All right, so I'm just gonna get started now. Welcome to this workshop of Intro to Firebase. Let's dive right into it. So what is Firebase? Well, Firebase is a backend as a service, and by that I mean you don't have to write a backend to get all that functionality. Nowadays in apps, you have this standard functionality such as, logging in via Google, Facebook, and then there's some data that goes into a database and stuff like that, So chat applications or social media, the endless amount of fraudulent dating applications. How do you think all these companies afford to build apps so quickly? Well, Firebase is a rapidly growing, in fact, it's really old and it's really popular service for spinning up apps really quickly. So all you're doing is you're maintaining the client side of things, and you're not writing any server-side code for the most part, for most applications. Today, we'll only be writing a front end for a chat, and you're gonna see that without writing any back-end code, I'm gonna make a chat application for you. Now, how many of you over here have done web development before? Any kind, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, any kind? Cool. How many of you have done it in React? Okay, cool. It would be really helpful if there's at least one person who's done React on every table. Looks like that's the case, so that's good. And then, how many of you have actually used Firebase? Like, even tried it? Okay, I know you've tried it. Okay, cool. So we're gonna be making just a front end. How many of you have even tried writing a back end before? Anyone? Okay. today you're gonna see how without writing any Node.js, we'll still be writing Node.js on the front end. We're gonna make a chat application. So let's dive right into it. So Firebase offers certain services for that. One of them is the real-time database, which is basically a database which when you update that database, it notifies all the clients that are subscribed to it, which is perfect for chatting applications. So essentially you have one client that sends out a message, then your friends are gonna get notified, or other people in that chat room are automatically gonna get notified that there's a new message. And typically when you're writing something like this in a backend, you have to use like WebSockets and then scaling all of that and paying AWS like exorbitant amount of money and then managing those services. It takes a lot. So Firebase makes this so much easier. And then there's authentication that we'll be using today. So we'll be also adding sign-in with Google. And when you're using sign-in with Google, you know, you have to study all that OAuth flow and everything. Firebase makes it super easy by just having it in one pop-up and all that. So it manages all of that for you. And then there's machine learning deployment and hosting, which we wouldn't be going into that, but helpful to know that they can host your TensorFlow models for you. Moving on, so why Firebase, right? Again, zero-click services, easy implementation. Today, again, they're not gonna ask you for a credit card today. It's used by a lot of companies, as you can see here. When you scale up, however, so you have 1 million users, Firebase is gonna be costly, but some companies decide to go for that, right? So Firebase is a really helpful industry standard to learn, especially startups. A lot of startups are using Firebase. So again, here's what we'll be making today. This is actually a real screenshot from the chat app we were making as a test. And I'm gonna be remaking this chat app right in front of you, including the styling and everything. So let's dive right into it. So we'll be using 3 tools for this session besides Firebase. We'll be writing it in Node.js, VS Code as our IDE, and Vercel is the hosting platform where you will be uploading your code, and you'll actually be able to send that chat link to your friends, and you'll be able to chat with each other. So let's get started. How many of you have Node.js installed already? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and still show how to install Node.js, since there are some people who don't have it installed right now. So so head over to nodejs.org, and then just go ahead and click on this 18.15 LTS. This is the one that you need. LTS stands for long-term stability. I think so, but like this is the version that you need, and of course it's automatically going to detect your OS, so you don't need to worry about Windows or Mac, or it's going to give you the right one. So once that is installed, what you have to do is go to terminal. I use iTerm. If you're on Windows, just use command prompt. After you have Node.js installed, go to iTerm, and then I'm just gonna go to my folder where I'm gonna be working on this. So this is gonna be so if I type node right here, it's gonna give me this prompt right here, this caret right here, meaning that Node.js is indeed working. And you can also try npm and see if it gives you this output. That means Node.js is all installed. Let me just everybody good up to this point? If anyone needs help, just raise your hand and one of the TAs will be there to help you out. Also, who has VS Code installed? Does everyone have VS Code? Okay, in case you don't, just type VS Code, just an IDE right here, and there you have it. Just download this thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and do Firebase. By the way, if you need a little bit more time, we're also live streaming this session. So what a lot of people did in our previous session was rewind, just in case. So if there's a step you missed and want to see it again, you can rewind the live stream on our website. So let's go ahead and initialize our Firebase project. So go to firebase.google.com. And preferably log in with your ASU ID. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started with it. And let's add a project. I'm going to name my project Chat App, like that. You can name it whatever you want. And then you can turn off, enable Google Analytics for this project since you don't need that. So just turn that off. Totally up to you though. And yeah, now you have your project creating. Sorry, oh, okay, let me take a look. So if you're getting an error saying, if you get an error while creating it, after you hit get started, if you hit add a project, if you click select parent resource, you have to, oh wait, I'm in the wrong account. So if I hit get started, and I click add this, if it gives you an error about some resources, just click on this select parent organization and make sure you've checked unmanaged under ASU.edu. So that's how it's going to know what the parent organization is. I don't know why it did not automatically select that, but yeah, this is what you have to choose to fix that issue. Does everyone have their project created? Cool. Let's go ahead and look at the different things they have to offer. So if I go to build, this is the authentication page right here. And this is where you don't have to do this right now. Basically, you can add sign in with all of these providers, email, password. They handle the password reset, all those features. So if I go ahead and check out real-time database, this is where I can create a database to store and sync data in real time, which is basically whenever I insert something into this database, everyone who has that web page open or that app open is going to get notified immediately. And that's how basically all their chat applications work. Your chat applications typically open what's called a WebSocket. Like if you have Facebook Messenger open or any other platform like iMessage, not iMessage, but typically Facebook Messenger and all these platforms, they use WebSockets. Again, that's hard to set up, but it's all easy with Firebase. So I'm going to go ahead and create a database right here. And yeah, this is what you have to do. So again, go to real-time database, click create database. You can leave this as US Central and click next. And make sure you do start in test mode. Do not do locked mode, just do test mode. And hit enable. So there we are. So this is all, we've done all of this. So once you have real-time database set up, let's enable authentication. Let's just change all the settings for sign in with Google. Do you have a question? So if you go to build on the left of, yeah. Click, sorry, what?
You said enable authentication. Where do we click to do that?
Oh, yeah, I'm about to just show you that. So if you go to build, again, real-time database and authentication are both going to be here. If you click on authentication, click on setup sign-in method. And it's going to let you choose Google over here. So let's click Google. And over here, you have this tiny enable toggle switch on the right when you click on Google. So just enable that. Over here, project public facing name, you don't need to change that. Totally up to you. Would recommend not changing this right now. And then project support email, you can just choose your ASU email. Once that's done, go ahead and hit save. And you're done with enabling authentication in Firebase. Sorry? Sign-in method? Yeah, go to build, authentication, and then, yeah, on the left, build, authentication, and then it's going to be sign-in method here. Or you can click this tab and add and choose a provider here. I already did that, so it's not showing all the options, but basically you'll find an option. Is everybody up to speed so far?
For the project support email, we put down our own ASU email, right?
Project support? Yeah, you can choose any email for that, preferably our ASU one if that pops up. Everybody good up till here? Yes? Cool. Okay, so now that we have our authentication set up, we're gonna go ahead and create our React project. And some more people have joined right now, so welcome. Do you all have React and Node.js installed? Okay. Um, so to start off, we're gonna create a React app. Yeah, you have a question?
For setting up a database, which mode should we select? Long or
Test mode. Test mode. So let's go ahead and create a React project. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up Visual Studio Code right here. I'm gonna open up a new window of Visual Studio Code. Just a second. All right. So when you open up VS Code, it's going to look something like this. Click on, I don't know how to do this on Windows, but Control and the button underneath the escape key, it's called tilde. It's going to open up a terminal. Or you can, I think you can open it up from terminal tab. Yeah, view, terminal. So once you have the terminal, what you want to do is you want to create a folder. You want to create a folder or open a folder that where you're gonna have your project. So I'm gonna create my project in here. And as you can see on my left, now I have all the files and stuff, or at least the folder. It's probably going to be empty for you right here. So over here in the terminal itself, I can go ahead and create a React project. So npx create React app. Is the terminal visible for everyone? Cool. Let's do, I'm gonna call it DSC chat. You can call it whatever. Actually, I'll just call it chat app 2. Okay. So give it whatever name you want. Just don't add any spaces to it. Oh, sorry. Okay. So right now I'm creating a new React app right here. Oh. So people on our live stream, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat, in the YouTube chat itself, and I'll be answering those for you. Alrighty. Is everyone good up to this point? Does everyone have a React application created? If anyone needs more time, let me know. Okay. If we need help, raise your hand. T's will be there. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to run npm start right here. And what npm start is going to do, it's going to start what's called a development server in React. And it's going to give me a simple web page. Oh, my bad. So keep in mind you have to run npm start in the folder that was just created. So make sure you cd into that folder. Npm start. Once I do that, it just opened up this web page for me. It's going to load. And it's going to show this nice React spinning logo. So once you have that, did everyone get this screen? Did you get the spinning React logo? Does anyone need more time? All right, does everyone have this spinning logo? Yes or no? I want to hear a yes. Yeah. You got it? You need help? Okay, he's there. Need help? Okay, I'll come. Okay, so after okay, so after we've got the spinning logo, what we're gonna do is we're gonna install Firebase. So you can hit Control C, and again, that's Control C to cancel this. And we're gonna do npm. npm again stands for Node Package Manager, so we're gonna install the Firebase package right here. So do npm install Firebase, and that's gonna go ahead and install Firebase for you. All right. So quick recap of what we just did. We created a new Node.js project. We created a new React project, and we installed the Firebase tools for the Firebase package for Node.js. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hit npm start. Again, I mean it's gonna be the same, but now you can just keep npm start running. So we can have this running in the background now. And on the left, I can now click on Chat App 2, Source, and app.js. And it's going to bring me up this folder right here. And then what I want to do is, once we have this, once you have the app created, once you've done npm install, once you have npm install Firebase and npm start, we're going to go ahead and write some of this code right here. So we're going to import Firebase into our project. Right now we have installed the package. We now need to import the library into our code. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So in Firebase, in source/app.js, we're going to do that. Over here, on top, as you can see, we have the imports. And then here we have the main function itself. And the function returns HTML, or in this case, JSX. And so the function itself returns. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and remove everything that's within div class app. And what I can do is I'm gonna do h1 chat app. H1 stands for heading 1. For those who haven't done HTML before. And if I go back to my application right here, I'm only gonna see chat app right here. So now, what we can do is import everything that we need to. So first, we're gonna import Firebase, and basically that's gonna be we're gonna go ahead and you can remove the top 2 lines as well. Let's do import initialize app from Firebase. Okay, so this this imports Firebase, and then what I'm going to do is I want to import database related stuff. So I want to do get database ref set on value from Firebase database. And what this is basically what you're importing here are actually functions. And these functions are what you're going to be using in this application itself. So get database is to, of course, initialize the database. Ref is to refer to the database. Set is to set any value into the put any value into the database, and on value is to fetch stuff from the database. So let's go ahead. Once we have everything imported here from this one, what we're going to do is we're going to import the authentication related things. So I'm going to go ahead and type import get auth. Oh. Import get auth. And then sign in with pop-up. And then Google Auth Provider. So these are 3 other functions that we're importing from Firebase. So again, get auth is just like get database. You're basically initializing the authentication module. Sign in with pop-up is a function that's going to allow you to sign in with Google. It's going to show that pop-up for you. And Google Auth Provider is basically an object that tells Firebase that you're going to be using sign in with Google. So this is what we have so far. Is everybody good up to this point? Yeah. Curly brace?
No, it's like for from Firebase. How come doesn't have like the slash app or like your slash?
So, oh, it does actually. Good catch.
So you're forgetting like the semicolon at the end of like the second import.
Oh, that's fine. Semicolons are optional. Yeah. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize Firebase. Right now we've only imported what the functions that we're going to be using for this project. So what I'm going to do next is I want to go ahead and have my Firebase configuration so that my app knows what project in Firebase to connect to. And this is going to be the configuration from the Firebase project that you just created. So let's go ahead back to Firebase right here. And I can just go ahead to project overview. And I go ahead and click on web right over here. So again, on the left, project overview right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on web. Here, I can give my app a name, so I'm going to call it chat app. And I'm going to register this app right here in Firebase. So now, this right here is going to give me a bunch of code. Now, on top, if you see that it says import the functions you need from the SDKs, we've already done that part. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy what's below this. We're going to copy this configuration right here, and we're going to paste it right over here. And after this, I can just hit continue to console. That doesn't matter. But once does everyone have their configuration imported? Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I've initialized, so as you can see, I've initialized Firebase using the initialize app function. And again, whenever I use initialize app, I'm passing in the Firebase config object right here, which has my API key, domain. This is all generated by Firebase. You don't need to worry about that. You're just telling the Firebase library to go talk to whatever configuration this is. What is defined in the configuration? So it's going to talk to this database. It's going to talk to this domain, stuff like that. And is there a key, etc. So next, what I want to do is that I want to initialize the database. Right now, we've only initialized the app itself. Now we want to initialize the database module. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do const database equals get database. And if I click right here, of course, it automatically suggests to me. And it takes in a Firebase app as my first argument. So what I need to do is I need to pass in this app instance right here. So you immediately see how it all connects, right? When you initialize the Firebase database, you connect it to the app that you have just initialized. And you don't need semicolons. The third thing is I want to create a endpoint, or so to say, a collection called messages. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Firebase, real-time database, and I'm going to go ahead and create messages right here. And I'm going to make it an object right here. When I hit enter, sorry, you have to click the plus button right here, and that's going to give you message. Then type messages in the key, and this is going to be you use a bracket right here. And let me just slow down for a bit. Let me just make sure that everyone's up to this step before we move on. Sorry? Oh, just leave that. I'm just waiting on everybody to first catch up, and then I'll get to that part. We can do that later too. Yeah. Question. All right. So now what we're going to do next, after we've initialized the database right here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a reference to the messages endpoint. And now the messages endpoint doesn't exist. That's not a problem right now. We can just define the reference. So what I'm going to do is call this messages ref. And this is going to be pointing to my, this is going to be a reference to the messages endpoint. So if I type ref, and again, if I type ref, it's going to automatically give me this documentation on the left. It says it returns a reference to the location in the database corresponding to the provided path. So ref takes in 2 arguments, a pointer to your database, and your path you want to do it. So the first argument is going to be, again, database, which is basically this variable. And then I'm going to do messages over here. And that's about it. So the first argument, again, if I select this, notice how this connects to this variable right here. And then the app passed into this connects to this initialized app right here. It all just connects. Next up, what we want to do is set up the states. And states are basically your UI changing based on whatever information you store. How many of you have used React states before, for the ones who've done React? Okay. So what a state is basically when it's basically a variable that React constantly watches. And whenever that variable changes, your UI is going to refresh. That means, for example, if there is an array with a lot of text, and if I add something to that array, your UI will display that after that array changes. So that's called a state in React. That's not relevant to Firebase. This is just web development. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import 3 functions from React right here called a use effect, use state, and use ref. And you'll get to know the use of use ref and use effect in some time. But let's just go ahead and import these 3 things. So at the top, let's do use ref, use effect, use state, and use ref from React. So we've imported 3 functions for that. So once I've added that, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to define my states right here. And each state is going to hold a piece of data that is going to be relevant to our whatever we show on our web page. As an example, we have 3 states. We'll be setting up 3 states here. One is going to be holding our user data. User data is basically the thing we fetch from Google. Is signed in is going to be a variable that's going to be controlling whether to show the chat box or to show the sign-in page. And the messages is going to be holding all of our messages data. So what we're going to do is we're going to const messages, comma set messages equals use state, and this is going to be an empty array. And what this is basically the message. This is going to create 2 things, right? This is going to create a variable called messages, which is going to have your messages, but also there's going to be a function created automatically called set messages. So whenever you call set messages, it's going to do 2 things. it's going to update your list of messages, and it's going to set the message, it's going to refresh your UI so that the new messages show up. And then I'm going to do this with 2 more states. I'm going to copy that here. One is signed in, and this is going to be a Boolean, basically, which is going to control whether if you're signed in or not. And then the third is for user data. The third is for user data, and this is going to hold your profile that you fetch from Google. So that's going to be your name, mostly your name and email. So we're going to have that stored here. And just a quick difference to point out. Say I create another variable and I called it A, right? Well, when the difference between a state and, again, this variable right here is that whenever I change this variable, nothing's going to happen in my UI, right? But whenever I update a state variable, it's going to change my UI. So everyone up to speed? Sorry, set messages and what?
The concept for user messages and user data.
Yeah, and is signed in. They all use state, and whatever values in between the parentheses is going to be the default value that variable is going to be initialized to. So messages in this case is being initialized to an empty array, and is signed in is being initialized to false. And user data is being initialized to an empty array as well. Where? Oh. Yes. So states are always anything as in a function inside the function. Okay. Oh yeah, that's why I've got an error right there as well. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Thanks for pointing that out real quick. So these are called use state. So these are called React hooks. And these always have to be in the function, in the React function or component that you're creating. So it needs to be inside of that function. These need to be declared inside of the function. Otherwise, you're going to get an error that I was getting previously. Any more questions in the room? Cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and, yeah. Let's see. You have to import use state at the top. heads up, in case anyone missed this, you have to import useEffect, useState, and useRef from React. And once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and first thing we're going to do is we're going to put, we're going to set up the authentication object right here. So what I'm going to do is const auth equals get auth app. And once that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up sign in with Google, first of all. So let's define that function. Just going over it quickly, you're defining a function called sign in with Google. And this is a different style to define a function. Typically, the way you would define a function is you would use a function keyword, the name of the function, square parentheses, and then the curly braces. Well, in this case, you would use the const keyword and sign in with, and I'm going to name it sign with Google equals the function itself. So these are called arrow functions in Node.js. They're just another way of writing functions. So I'm going to go ahead and write this. And this is going to be defined in the app function itself. So const sign in with Google equals open bracket, close bracket, this arrow with an equal to, and curly braces. And what I want to do is I want to sign in with a pop-up. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to have a button that you click to sign in with Google, and it's going to open up a pop-up to sign in with Google. And what I'm going to do is if you scroll up, you'll see that we imported something called sign in with pop-up from Firebase auth, right? We imported this, so I can go ahead and use this, sign in with pop-up. And the first thing it's going to take is the auth object. And the auth object is the one we just initialized right here in line 29. And again, as you can see, this also connects to the initialize app right here. So it all makes sense. Sign with pop-up is going to have auth as my first one. And then the second one, I want to specify a provider. So I want to tell it that the pop-up should actually point to Google auth provider. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to type new Google auth provider. It's the one that we imported. And then open parenthesis, close parenthesis. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type .then, which is a method over here that takes in a function. And through .then, what I'm specifying is that I'm specifying what to do once I've completed things in the pop-up. I'm telling my application how to handle the data provided to me by Google. So again, I click on it, it shows me a pop-up, I sign in with Google, what's next? That is what we're going to define in the .then, in the argument of .then. So .then, and this is going to have what's called a callback function. So first argument of this is on fulfilled. So whenever my Google sign-in is fulfilled, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to put an open parenthesis, close parenthesis to define that this is the function I want to execute. And result is what's going to be in there. So Firebase itself is going to execute this function for me once I've finished the Google pop-up. This is what this highlighted part right here is what Firebase is going to execute for me. I'm just telling Firebase, hey, do this after you sign in. And the first argument right here, which is result, that's the one that's going to be, that's going to have our user data. So over here, what I can do is I can get the user through result dot user and save it in a constant variable. Everybody good so far? Does anyone need help? Cool. And the next thing I want to do is I want to set the user data. And by set user data, I mean I'm telling the UI itself that this is all my user data. So I'm going to do set user data, and I'm going to do user. And I'm going to set is signed in to true, because now that we're signed in, right? We're telling the UI that now we're signed in. And then if I do .catch right here, I can just print out the error itself. So once I had this function defined, we just need to call this function using Firebase. So I'm going to go ahead and create a button right here, and I'm going to call it sign in with Google, right? Well, if I go back to Chrome, you'll see that this button doesn't work. Doesn't do anything, right? Well, I have to hook it up to the function, so I'm going to do on click, and I'm going to pass it to sign in with Google. And when I do that, what's going to happen is there's going to be a pop-up, and I can actually sign in with Google right here. I choose my ID, and then nothing happens, right? I just clicked it, but nothing happened. Well, guess what? We did not show anything on the screen yet, right? So remember that we did set user data? Well, and now that the state, the React state has this information, the UI has this information, what I can do is I can show that over here. So for this, I need to first check if I'm signed in, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a curly brace right here, and I'm going to do is signed in, and double and I'm going to put, I'm just going to put, actually let's do H2 for this. You are signed in. And I'm going to duplicate this line and say you are not signed in with an exclamation mark. So what's going to happen is if is signed in is true, then it's going to say you are signed in. If you're not signed in, then it's going to say you're not signed in. And again, this is based on what's set over here. So if I reload this, you're going to notice that I'm signed in. If I refresh, I get logged out. If I refresh the page, I'm going to get logged out. Remember that. So we don't have that functionality built in. If I click on sign with Google again, I click on my name, and then it's going to change to you are signed in. Right? Simple stuff. But what if I want to show my name over here after signing in? Well, that is just as simple. I can just, instead of you are signed in, I can do welcome user dot, and let me check the slides real quick. This is going to be user dot current user dot name. I think that is the, oh, I think it's gonna be user data dot current user dot. Let me quickly. I need to verify this particular part, but oh, the current user dot display name. Okay. Okay, so if I do sign with Google now, oops. What if I console a log user? Now this is how you debug. You basically either use breakpoints or print statements. I'm going to do console.log user, and I'm going to go back to Chrome. I'm going to go to the inspect, and I'm going to go ahead and do console right here. And if I click sign in with Google, and I click on my name right here, I'm going to see that this was the object that was printed. So I can just do display name right here. So this is going to be user.data.display name. Is that it? All right, I figured it out. It says my name after I sign in. So again, after you're going to leave sign with Google function as is, as we had it. But instead, if you do welcome user data.display name, notice how when the user data variable was changed, it changed the UI itself also to welcome and my display name. Is everybody good up to this point? I know we've kind of sped through that a little bit. Are we good to go on?
1 second.
All right. Okay, everyone up to speed? Does anyone need help? This means that this variable is not being used anywhere. and show the next thing I'm going to do is, now that we have Google sign in working, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have some mock data, some mock messages in my Firebase database. And the reason why I'm going to have that is so that when we're testing it out, we're going to have some messages before we even build out that functionality to send a message, right? So we're going to have some test messages in there. What I'm going to do is going to go here, click Add, Messages, change it to Object. And what I'm going to do is an array of objects. So it's going to be, it's better to write it on VS Code in a new tab. So curly braces, square brackets, curly braces, name, Bob. And then this is going to be message test. And then a comma after the first set of curly braces. And then we're going to do name, Alice, message, test. So once I have this, I'm going to copy this. And in messages, I'm going to paste this right here. When I do that, it should be 0 and 1, and it should have my messages right here. So just to quickly recap, this is an array of objects. This is what's called an object in JavaScript. And there's 2 objects right here. Okay. Everybody got this into Firebase? You have to paste this into Firebase right here to create some messages. Now that you have your messages initialized, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show these messages. So what I want to do, we're going to make use of something called useEffect. And what useEffect does is that it executes a function when a particular variable changes, or even when the page is loaded, right? So I have some comments to explain this. What this section right here is going to do is once we're logged in, we're going to start listening for any messages that are in the database. And what's going to happen is, if the user is logged in, we listen for messages. So if the current user is not null, that means we're logged in. And then there's this function we imported earlier called onValue from Firebase. We're going to tell Firebase to listen to the messages endpoint that we defined before. And whenever there is a new message, there's this function right here, which has a snapshot and everything, that's going to be called, and this function will be called automatically by Firebase every time there's a new message. Again, this is called a callback function, and then this is going to be stored in the messages variable. So again, what's happening here is fetching from Firebase, storing it in a variable, refreshing the UI to show all the new messages. This is all that that code does. And so what I want to do is let's go back here. And over here in function app, what I want to add is going to be use effect. And again, use effect is something we imported from React on the top right here. So use effect. And I want to pass in a function right here. And as the second argument for use effect, I want to pass in is signed in. So whenever the value of is signed in changes, I want to make sure that my listener is being created. So if is signed in is true, then we're going to check for on value. We're going to check for, we're going to pass in our query. And on value, again, on value is our function imported from Firebase right here. Right? So we're going to do on value. We're going to click on here, and then I'm going to do messages ref, comma, and then first it takes in the query. Again, query is our messages endpoint, which we just passed in, and callback again is the function that's going to be called whenever there's a new message. So let's do that. And then what I want to put here is the snapshot, so to say, that Firebase will send me. So this snapshot variable is basically this these two messages right here. If I go ahead and console.log this snapshot.val right here, if I console.log this, and if I go back to inspect console, and I'm going to go ahead and clear this real quick. Go back to sign in with Google, log in, and you're going to notice it printed out something right here. And this thing right here actually has our messages that we had in the database. So we just logged in and fetched messages in the messages endpoint. So how do I display this, right? How do I display this message? Well, one thing is right now that message is in this function right here. How do I get it in this particular UI right here? Any function, how do I get it in this UI? Any answers, any guesses? Okay, no guesses. I'll just go ahead and give the answer then. This is going to be using states. So what we're going to do is instead of logging it to the console, we're going to do set messages snapshot.value. And once that is done, what I'm going to do is I can go ahead and conditionally show this. I can loop over the messages variable right here, and I can show each message right here. So once I've set messages, what I'm going to do is, if I'm signed in, instead of showing the welcome thing, I'm going to go ahead, add brackets right here, and I'm going to create a div called messages /div. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop over messages right here. So messages.map. I'm going to pass in a function again to this. And I'm going to return the message itself. So messages.map, basically what it does is going to loop over every single message, and it's going to show it in the thing itself. So we're going to take message, and we're going to return div class name message /div, and then I'm going to create another div for name. Message.name. By the way, you don't need to take pictures of it because we're going to be we're live streaming right now, so you can just go on our website and look at the live stream, and we'll also be uploading the slides and everything. So what have I done here? For each message that I've pulled from Firebase, we know the structure that for each message between 0, 1, and to n, we have a message object and we have a name object in our JSON structure. So I can just use that dot name and dot message to print out the name, Bob, and the message test. So if I go ahead and reload my application right here, and I sign in, I'm actually going to see what each person sent. I'm going to see that Bob sent test, Alice sent test. So I see all the messages right here. And what I can do is I can hide the sign in with Google button if I'm logged in. So if I'm not signed in, I can go ahead and remove this and put that right there. So I only see Bob test, Alice test. The next thing that I want to do is add the sending functionality to this. And if I'm logged in, so if I want to create a send box right here, what I can do I can create the send box right here, and this is going to be an input box and a button to send. So I'm going to create send box right here. I'm going to create an input type equals text. And by the way, I'm just running this real quick because I don't want to run this little workshop till 8 p.m. Just want to run it till 7:30, so the next 20 minutes. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. The TAs will come to you to help. I think I need to move this to... So I need to create the send box. And within here, I want to put the send box thing. And then I want to put a button to send the message. So I see I can put stuff into this box right here. It's really small right now, but yeah. And I hit send, it's not going to do anything. Right? There's no message being sent. So what I want is, first, now I want two things. One of the things I want is a reference to this text box so I can read its value, what has been put into this text box. And the second thing that I want is to make this button actually do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give this a reference. So we're going to make a reference to the input box itself. And on top right here, I'm going to go ahead and use our third thing that we imported in React, which was called useRef. So over here, I'm going to create a ref. I'm going to create an input ref. And we're going to use ref to create that. And then over here for the text box, we're going to put in input ref. And I'm going to do on click over here, and I'm going to define a function called send message. And it says React hook user F cannot be called at top level. So I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to make sure this is in my thing right here, in my function app. And what I want to do is I want to create a function called send message. And what I want to do in my send message function first is that I want to grab the message value that I'm about to send out. So I'm going to do send message value. So let message value equals input ref dot current dot value. And what we're going to do is we're going to log. Well, we're not going to log. We're going to send this message value to Firebase. And this is the most important part, because this is what's going to complete the application itself. So here, if you go to send message, I can go ahead and send this to Firebase. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to do, I'm going to make a copy of all the messages that I have right here. So first is again getting the message value itself. We're going to create a copy of the array that we have currently, and then we're going to push our message in there, and then we're going to update it on Firebase. So let's do that. Let new messages equals dot dot dot, and it's going to copy the messages variable, which is this one. And new messages dot push, and I'm going to pass in the name, which is going to be my display name, user data dot, well, not user data. This is going to be the same display name that we had before, which was user data dot name. And then this is going to be message, and the message itself is going to be our message value right here. And then what we can do is that we can update this on Firebase. So this is going to be messages ref right here. And then we're going to set this new messages value dot then. After that, we're going to log that message sent. So if I type something now and hit send, it's going to blow up. I've probably messed something up right there. What did I mess up? Is it probably this one? I think. Dot 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 messages. Let me just do a test. Okay. So what I messed up right here was my name variable. I think what I want to do is auth.currentUser.displayName. And if I go ahead and sign in again, I want to type something, so hello, and I hit send, and it's going to say my name and hello over there. And that's my chat application fully built. So if you go up to real-time database, you'll actually see these messages pull up here. So I know most people might have lost touch because I had to go that fast in the interest of time. But what I'm going to do next is I'm not gonna style this right now since we're running out of time. I'm just gonna put up the code on GitHub for the styles and everything. But for now, what I'm gonna show you is actually to deploy this, and we'll be able to open this up on your computers, and you'll actually be able to chat here. So what I'm gonna do is, now that this is built, the last step right here will be to go ahead and install Vercel. And Vercel is the tool that we're using to deploy this. So npm install -gvercel. That's the command I have to use for that. Oh, did I? Oh, never mind. So I'm going to install Vercel right here. It's going to take a second. While Vercel is installing, what I can do in the background is, okay, it's installed, never mind. So I can do Vercel login to log into Vercel, but I'm already logged into Vercel, so I'm not going to do that. I can go ahead and just hit Vercel right here, and it's going to say, do you want to set up and deploy this? I hit yes, and I click my name. I want to create a new project, so I'm going to say no to existing project, and just hit enter. Enter. It's going to upload my code. I don't want to modify these settings, so I'm just going to hit enter again. And this is now being uploaded online. So this is, while this is building, I can actually go to this file called app.css, and I can probably, okay, never mind, it's done. So I don't know why it added the word pink over here, but that's fine. If I go to chat app2-pink.vercel.app, I'm gonna click here, and it actually uploaded my project to the internet. And sign in with Google is probably not going to work, and the reason for that is you kind of have to whitelist this URL in Firebase. So I'm just going to quickly do that. This is the last step. Project settings. And what I'm going to do is, which one was it? Oh, it was authentication settings, authorized domains, and I add this as my authorized domain from where I can do sign in with Google. So sign in with Google does require this. And when I go click sign in with Google right here, hopefully it's going to work. Yeah. So I click here, and I have all my messages here. Now what you guys can do, just go to this URL right here. So it's chat app2-pink.vercel.app, and whatever message you send right now is actually going to show up on this screen. Yep, we see some messages right there. And you guys can go ahead and keep spamming it, and it's going to handle all the load and everything. Google has that already perfectly managed. So yeah. And then, so that is how you make a chat app. I know it's been a little, I had to rush it a little towards the end, but the live stream is going to be on our website. After you style this with CSS and everything, and I'm going to have the code up for that as well, since we're not going to go into that. This is what it's going to look like. So if I go here, this is after styling. This is what it's going to look like. I hit sign in with Google. And you have all of these messages right here. If you guys want to try this one out, this is chat app-test-anane.vercel.app. So that kind of concludes the session. Of course, if you guys want to if anyone wants to stick around and actually complete it here, you're welcome to. Do you have a question?
Where do you say we could find like the information?
Oh, the live stream and everything? That's going to be on our website, asudsc.com, right here. So this is actually where I'm live streaming right now. And we're going to put the stuff up, and we're going to notify it on Discord and everything. So as you can see, as people are sending messages, I see it here. And this kind of like iMessage style UI. The iMessage style UI isn't tough to do. It's more, I wanted to demonstrate Firebase for y'all. So thanks for joining today. I hope you learned something. And